introduction went. How many of you have seen the movie Remember the Titans? Great, great movie. I know. It's just one of those movies that inspires you every time you see it. It actually was, I don't know if you know this, but it was actually shot at Agnes Scott College, a lot of it. And the football scenes were shot right down the road from me at Spragueberry High School. So it was kind of a cool thing that has a hometown feel to it. But I was recently watching, it was on TV, and I was watching it, and there was a lot of really powerful moments, but there was one that really caught my attention, and I thought I'd share it with you. It was when Denzel Washington, who was the coach of the Titans, and he was trying to whip this team into shape, and he was talking to one of his assistant coaches who had given a number of his players a pass on some things. He'd gone real easy on them in some areas that they were working on. And he was excoriating his assistant coach. He said, the world don't give a damn about how sensitive these kids are. You ain't doing these kids a favor by patronizing them. You're crippling them. You're crippling them for life. Those are powerful words. And I thought that back about some things that had happened to me and happened to my family over the years that I thought really brought this idea together. My daughter, who I rarely talk about in a speech because I generally end up gushing and doing all those stupid parent things, but my daughter has used these difficult experiences in her life to create the type of independent, powerful, strong woman that I always wished she would be. And this is the story of some of those times. In the year 2000, she had just graduated from high school and she was accepted by a good college. And during that summer, the college sent her a letter and said, we would invite you to join a group called Project Wild. Project Wild evidently was a bunch of seniors who would take a bunch of freshmen and go camping for a few weeks before school started. And her mother and I thought that this was going to be a great opportunity for our very bookish daughter who had barely ever spent any time outdoors in her entire life. So we talked her into it. We bought her some brand new hiking boots, and we put her on an airplane 2 weeks before school started with instructions to give us a call when you got there. Well, the call never came. So we were a little concerned. Evidently, what had happened is the seniors in Project Wild had scooped up all these freshmen from the airport, taken away everything they owned just about, including their cell phones, gave them just barely what they needed to survive for 2 weeks in Mount Pisgah, or Pisgah National Forest, and headed off into the wilderness. No, you can't call your mother and father, that's okay, you'll survive. No, you can't do any of this stuff. And by the way, no toilet paper. It was a no-impact, leave no trace type of trip. 2 weeks, everything you had to eat was going to be on your back, along with your sleeping bag in your tent. And my wife called up to the school soon after we did not get a phone call, and when we heard about this, we thought, our daughter is going to hate us so much. She is going to scream at us so much when she gets back. So we were giggling about this whole thing. 2 weeks went by, we still hadn't heard from them. We called them a couple of times. The school had no idea where they were. Oh, they'll show up when they're ready. It's been fine, they've done this in the past. So after 2 weeks, we got all her move-in stuff for the dorm, and we drove up there getting ready to move her into the dorm, and we got there, and the bus from Project Wild showed up. And out of this bus came the stinkiest, slimiest, grungiest, nastiest looking people I had ever seen in my life. And I was a hippie in the 70s. I've seen nasty and grungy. They had us beat by a mile. We could not tell male from female. We could not even tell who our daughter was until, wait a second, I think she just got off. Oh yeah, there she is. She was covered with dirt, and she had hundreds, literally hundreds of insect bites. And she had one other thing. She had this huge smile. She would later tell us that this was probably the most empowering thing that she'd ever done in her life. They went miles and miles every day, 10, 15 miles a day, deep into the woods, carrying everything with them, having to carry all the trash out. And it was just an incredibly empowering experience. She realized that this was the kind of thing that if she could do this, she could do anything. This came to be a very powerful lesson for her as the years went by. A few years after that, she was asked to become a fellowship student at a university in Germany. And she was told, it was in Jena, Germany. I don't know if any of you know where Jena, Germany is, but it's East Germany. It's almost in Czechoslovakia. So she was told to get her stuff, to fly to Frankfurt. A liaison would meet her, and they would get on a bus and a train and a bus and a burro and who knows what to go all the way across Germany. Bring your stuff that you're going to need for the year. Bring as much clothes as you want because you're going to be here for a year. So she packed up this duffel bag. It was about 80 pounds. Our daughter's about 9 pounds. She packed up this duffel bag, got on the plane, got to Frankfurt, and the liaison never showed up. So she had to drag that duffel bag down the stairs and up the stairs and across the street and onto the train. And in the process, she irritated the hell out of about 100 Germans. If you've ever been to Germany, you know they do not tolerate any problem with transportation. You're making some mistake, you Americans! You're always making some mistake! And she, everything she got, nobody would help her, but they all yelled at her. But she got to where she needed to go, and she had a great time. She spent the year there without any problem at all. And the thing is, she had this incredible resource, I think, that she could always draw on, knowing that she spent 2 weeks pooping in the woods. How bad can being in Jena, Germany be by yourself? It's going to be okay. So another example, when she was a freshman, she came home from the freshman summer, and she was greeted with a letter from the school saying, by the way, you're on academic probation because you failed organic chemistry and you forgot to turn in a English paper. That summer with Emily, my sweet and lovely daughter, was like living with a wolverine in a cage. She was horrible. She was unbelievable to deal with. But as the summer progressed, you could see that the wheels were turning. She was thinking, well, I guess I'm the one that's responsible for this. And I'm sure by the end of the summer, she realized that there was probably only one person who was going to be able to deal with this, and that would be her. So she went back to school. She brought her grades up. She graduated a few semesters late, and she went on to get an advanced degree at Georgia Tech. And the interesting thing about the whole thing is that in spite of being knocked down like that and not being able to deal with that initially, she pulled together her resources. She went to Tech. She got an advanced degree, and today she's a research chemist at a major research corporation in Chicago. She has a team of people working under her, and she has a PhD in, of all things, organic chemistry. So she found the resolve and the resilience to put this together. And I think back on this, I think back on the lessons that children teach us about. You think about the little toddler who's trying to learn how to walk or trying to learn how to ride a bike. They don't give up. Give up doesn't even exist to them. It's going to happen sooner or later. I'm going to learn to ride that bike. So our children teach us things. They teach us important things about resilience and about how to deal with difficult situations in the world. So Denzel had it right. You can't cuddle these kids. You can't do that. You're going to strangle them. You're going to stifle them for life. And when you think about us as adults, we have to do the same thing. We give ourselves a pass so often. We're faced with so many difficult situations, so many things where we know the hard choice is this choice, but we back away from it. We don't do it because we know it's going to be the difficult choice. But by doing that, we give up our chance to find greater joy, greater freedom, greater financial responsibility, or greater financial resources, all the things that make life great and wonderful. So sometimes you have to put on your big girl panties or your big boy whitey tighties and head out into the woods and deal with whatever you got to deal with. Just remember to bring the toilet paper.